So let me introduce today's presenter. Dr. Chan is a practice professor and corporate executive in accelerated action learning over the past 20 years. So today I'm happy to invite him to share his experience of applying project-based accelerated action learning in the module that he teaches. So a recorded version of this webinar and presentation deck will be available tomorrow on CTLD website under the IETL tab on Takeaway TNL strategy. So this series. Can you please mute your mic? Okay, thank you. So we would love to hear from you. So during Dr. Chan's sharing, please feel free to type your comments or questions at the Zoom chat. He will address your questions at the end of the sharing. So without further ado, let's get started. Over to you, Dr. Chan, while I click on the record button.
Okay, so good morning, every action learner and like-minded people. So I still remember PM says that less teaching and more learning. So what is accelerated action learning? Actually, it has evolved over the years since the originator, Regional Reverend, started in the 1950s. And he devoted his whole life into one subject called action learning. But over the past 40 years, actually, he has evolved into now is known as the fourth generation because of digital transformation. So it is an appropriate time that we should look at this from new dimensions. So I will go through what is the fourth generation of action learning, and then why this project-based accelerated action learning is so important as a common thread. So what I've realized is that there are 4 jobs I am doing. I'm 66 years old, I'm not 16 years old. And so someone asked me, Casey, are you so poor? Which always come at the right time when I ask them to pay up for my consulting fee. Then I explained to them that, in life, there's 2 very important equations in action learning. The first one is called optimization. So what's optimization? Optimization means that you can only carry 200 kg, don't carry more than that, because then your effectiveness and your efficiency will drop. So this is what we call productivity. So that's the optimization. The other one is called utilization. Cambridge University has actually done thorough research and realized that there are always 30% of unproductive time. You can call it idle time, but this if converted into productive time. Imagine a company's just every person chip in another 10% of productivity. This was what actually happened in my action learning journey, that I was involved in a company in Indonesia, which is now the 2nd largest group in the whole of Indonesia, and they borrow 14 billion, not rupiahs, US dollar, and cannot return. And because of that, then I was in McKinsey, and they told me that I was supposed to go to China. They said, can you return back and go to Indonesia? And then I spent 6 years trying to train up 80 consultants to actually bring it to the Olympic standard. So we have a system at the end of our action learning journey. It's called the management by Olympic system, and then the company actually became the number 2 most sustainable company in Indonesia. So this is what I will be discussing in the next invitation. So there's another invitation by Grace Chan. So I will discuss different things. Today is what I did in my free time in Indonesia. So I was invited by a couple of universities. Of course, these are the top universities in Indonesia, to spend my time productively on a Saturday and Sunday. So this is over the last 20 years. I actually implemented in particular university in Surabaya known as the Petra Christian University. So there's a private university. The ranking was unknown in year 2002 when I started, and now is the number 2 again as a private university, the top. Because how do you measure? Very simple. their graduates can join with a bachelor's degree. McKinsey, this is one good track record. And 40% of their graduates actually join a very progressive company called Sampona, which is actually part of the Philip Morris, and they get scholarships to go to top university like in Stanford, and some goes to London Business School, in University of New South Wales, etc. So therefore, how I manage the teaching environment, that I have limited time because I am not full-time lecturer. I'm only teach on weekends, and how they manage to evolve again from not very well known to now is actually very respectable and reputable in Indonesia. And finally, the insight which I spent to sum up everything within 5 minutes. So let me go through my own axiom is that the best way to master any subject, from my mentor, which is Professor Jedi Shet from Emory University, that you have to study its history, because he has written so many different topics, and he's in India ranked #1 guru, and of course he's original from India, but he migrated to USA, and is the dean of the business school, and of course Emory is ranked within the top 50. So therefore I learned that in action learning, you must always study its history before we start. And because of that, so as I mentioned, I train students to become consultants, because there are 3 things students must become, whether you're poly graduates or you are ITE or you are from our top universities, but there are 4 things we all have to do. The first thing is that, are you self-aware? What are your core strengths? Philip Yu, when I was working in EDB, tells me only one thing: Casey, focus on your strengths. Don't think about weaknesses, because weaknesses, you have too many. So I said, okay, I know what he meant. I focus on my strength. And you build up the self-confidence. So students are the same. You have to build up their self-confidence. Then the next thing is that they must put themselves in the shoes of other people. Example, students like to talk in the class. So I have it videotape, and I told my students in Indonesia, of course Singapore is slightly different culture. I said, well, do you like me to show this to your parents? They were very quiet. They said, why? I said, if your parents look at you and how you behave in the class, do you think that I'm a good lecturer or a teacher? So that's why I asked them to put themselves in my shoes. And students love to talk. I don't know about Singapore, because in Indonesia, they love to talk, and they have 2 or 3 handphones, and they bring in the computer not to type my notes, but actually playing with the computer. And these are, of course, the young students, very capable. They think they are smarter than the professor. So, but now I show them exactly what they are doing to me. And I want to share it with their parents. They're very, very quiet. So empathy, always put ourselves in other people's shoes, because this is what observation is about. Then I draw the conclusion. And all these are from Daniel Grohmann, how to build an emotionally intelligent person. And self-management means that we have to self-control. Nowadays, all younger generation, I mean, this is written in reports, in research, spend 60% of their time playing computer games. Some say, no, I only play 50% of the time, it doesn't matter. But self-management means that if all these younger generations start to spend their time playing computer games and not e-learning and adding value to the society, then very soon it's called degeneration of the society. So this is where all this action learning helps them to understand in the class. So therefore, as I said, as a result, I influence them. And what is better than the students influence each one another, because they have project-based accelerated action learning projects. Okay, so this is the starting point. So what is self-awareness in this action learning? So we have to look at the history. So there's Stanford University Professor Sutton, who always says that there are many people who know but don't do. So what's the answer? Become the theorists. But the people who do never study. So if they come to a crisis like now, COVID, pandemic, if you are from the industry, you realize the SME from Singapore, by the end of this year, 20% will be gone. We all know, because they don't have a strategy. So now one of my job is to look at, in actual fact, this is where the Polytechnic can come in and train the students to become junior consultants. So as I mentioned, 4 jobs. First job is a consultant, because whatever you study to implement, you have to behave like a consultant. That means you solve problems, real problems in the real world. The next one, of course, is about training. If I train the students, is good, but the students train themselves is even better. This is how they learn faster. Some of us say that we have case study. Case study is good, but it's a dead case. We have to use a live case, example, leadership, example. How do you look at good leaders and not so good leaders? You can criticize Donald Trump. You can criticize all the leaders in the world. You can also criticize Jack Ma of Alibaba recently. But do you have enough information to justify your claim? So instead of people gossiping, you put that as a real case and say, now you learn leadership. Can you now apply the principles of leadership and ask the questions that were being discussed in your course content and apply it to a real life situation? So now you are able to bridge the knowing and doing gap with live projects. So let me share with you how over the years, as I said, I'm 66 years old. When I'm minus, I actually have 40 years industrial experience of doing. But what happens if I don't educate myself, which is called lifelong learning? So in this case, I will be slanted to one side. So therefore, I started with EDB as industrial engineer. CSER is stands for Singapore Institute of Standards and Industrial Research. So now it has evolved into Spring into Enterprise Singapore. Then I was involved in 600 groups, then to Okuma. So I saw many, not to Nanyang Poly, but to Singapore Poly, to Nanyang Poly, to NUS, NTU, and all the EDB institutions, which is called the CNC machines, which means computerized numerical control. And at the same time, NTU was the first one under Professor Ho, Nai Chun. That time was the Gene Tech Center who bought the unmanned system from me. So until today, we are very good friends because we talk about smart manufacturing. So I went to Husky, a Canadian company, to be in charge of Asia, so on and so forth. So before I actually decided to be on my own, because when you're 60 years old, you have to create your own jobs. So I started a company with a very close. He used to be my student, but now he's my partner. I'm very proud to say that. Then we started 6 companies to help people related to action learning. Okay. So this is during over the years, I was doing my first doctorate at the University of Hertfordshire because I'm an engineer. Then I moved back into Singapore in 1983, and I teach the American Production and Inventory Control Society. Then I was the first adjunct lecturer with MDIS. Then I moved into teaching at SIM for the Strathclyde MSc and MBA, and the RMIT, which they actually introduced the WIL, which stands for Workplace Integrated Learning. It's different from on-the-job training, because it's likely slant towards action learning. Then since 2002, I was actively involved on a part-time basis with the universities in Indonesia, but also I'm a visiting professor at the University of Glasgow in Scotland itself. And of course, currently, I still teach the master's program at Murdoch, Northumbria, and University College Dunbury under the umbrella of Kaplan. But I'm also the master trainer. As I said, that's my third job. First job, consultant. Next job as an educator, providing part-time lecturing to universities. And then the third one is as a trainer. And then now I'm a practice professor as a trusted advisor of the UITM in Poland. And As such, I am also a writer. That means I write books and articles. Okay, that's part of my action learning journey. But what is so different? So this is something that is very basic, but yet a lot of people, they know, but how to put it into a simple picture. So knowing is always the theory. So there's always a theory and practice divide. So by the time you realize that Six Sigma was invented by Motorola in the 1980s, but how come it took so long for people until GE perfected it in 2001? Because theory and practice, there's a divide. Big organization, yes, GE, Microsoft, Apple. Apple started, in fact, IBM started first agile project management, but now recently it becomes the talk of the town because of a simple reason, it works. So everybody says that let's implement agile management, agile project management, but it was started by IBM in the 1980s again. But what took so long? Because of this thing called change in behavior. So every time we acquire new knowledge, I'm looking at the gap, the diagram. Unless we change the way we work, then learning has taken place. But action learning expedite, because why? This is workplace related. So this is the current concept, why it has evolved into project-based accelerated action learning. Last time, you can see during my time to do an MBA is 2 years, full-time, but now people can finish within 9 months. Are you telling me the MBA has been diluted? The one I cannot answer you, the university has to answer. But most universities now 9 months to maximum 18 months. So there's still what I call reduction of 6 months. The last time, no, because the lessons learned is that by the time you finish 2 years, if you are a sponsored student, you still have a job. If you are not a sponsored student, you come back to Singapore after you've completed your MBA, you don't have a job. If there's a job, most likely your junior will become your boss if you decided to work with the same company. So now, the equation is very simple, which originated from Reverence, the inventor of action learning. Learning must be greater or equals to the rate of change. But in digital transformation, it must be double speed rate of change. And also now, it's not the rate of change, it's called the velocity of change, which means that you must have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, you change for the sake of changing, you are going to hit the solid brick wall. So now this is what happened over the years. Reverend started this in the 1960s because he was the first professor at Manchester Business School, but he resigned and he go back to the industry, and later he formed an institution. So my Professor Gordon Wills, but of course he's knighted by the Queen. Now it's called Gordon Prestonich, and then in George Washington University is Michael McQuart, which now he has retired as well. But at the University of Surrey and Oxford Brookes University, you have Richard Tier, and all these are actually, like we say, my seniors, but we come from the same school. And then Otron is very famous in Australia. She run action learning research, and then come to Abraham Silver is in Adelaide. He's running his own institution, and now myself, I hope eventually I have some institutions, because Indonesia, they are very supportive of me, but then I'm a Singaporean. I still want to come back to Singapore and use this as a brand leadership for either polytechnic or even private institution, which is now I am discussing. Now, what is the paradigm shift? So to simply put, it means that we need to change its leadership, the way we think, how to think. So this is called whole brain human capital thinking, the works of this very popular person who wrote the book Whole Brain Manager. his book is just behind me. And he actually again resigned as a professor, and then he started running training on whole brain thinking. And work itself, now we know two types of work. One is called routine work. The other one is non-routine, which is project work. And behave means that now we have to be agile. And this is what is happening if you want to be a genuine or authentic entrepreneur. So the last one, to perform, you must have the spirit of an entrepreneur, which is known as entrepreneurship. This is reverence, so I don't go into detail because this is very basic, that he debunked the meaning of program knowledge. Because why? Program knowledge means you have to learn from textbook, which is rote learning. Then you ask, why must I learn all these things? And this leads us to say that the theory and the practice divide. So that leads to the second evolution, which is Baron Gordon Prestonage. And he says that the best way is to actually put the school inside the company. This is true. Some people call this corporate university, but he says corporate university is too much academic inclined. So we call this the enterprise school of management. And this is how we measure that. You have to ask yourself, how much is your contribution to the workplace learning? And do you able to come up with innovative solutions? If the answer is yes, did you manage to implement the solutions? And then is there a dollar value? Or in that case, they have intangible and intangible values. Professor Michael Marquardt says that, okay, I adjust reference formula a little bit. So I have the root learning, learn from textbooks. I ask, why must I learn all these things? And then he says that we implement this using projects. And then we do reflection, what went right and what went wrong. Now come to Richard Tier. He says that we all talk about learning organization, but learning organization, like Jack Welch of GE says, that it's no good unless the inside people also teaches their own staff. So therefore, General Electric has their own internal professors. This is the teaching organization, and he himself per month spent 4 hours actually on topics that are contemporary. And later on, some like Sodet Hall, which is also another big organization, change it to action learning organization, which is now some of the organizations are still using this. Organizations like Apple, like Nokia, of course, is finished, but Nokia is now bought over by Microsoft. So of course, the culture is still there on action learning organization. Professor Orton, of course, she's 100% academic. She says that, well, let's focus on the academic research. But at the same time, she realized that academic research, which is called PhD, now has been added by DBA, Doctorate in Business Administration. When you talk about DBA, Doctorate in Business Administration, then you have to apply action research, which says that first you plan what to do, you do it, observe what is happening between the theory and the practice, then what went right and what went wrong, and then now you repeat. But where is the learning? That's why she's my same school we came from, under Professor Gordon Wills. So this is a question she has to answer. Now, Professor Selva, his PhD is in action learning from Flinders University. In fact, I just talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he asked me, can I implement his work, applied learning for change? I said, the answer is yes and no. Yes is, I think, for companies who want to apply your model, I don't mind to be part of the consultant, but I have my own school of thought. So I don't think I can do very much for you, because imagine he's 75 years old. And then I say that when you run this type of programs, you must have a successor. For me, I have many successes because students who became my doctorate students, they said, now Casey, the reason why I joined you is because I am able to implement this. So I want to continue to evolve into the 5th generation of action learning. Okay, so that's me. Apart from doing the traditional university degrees, so Gordon Wills told me that I'm very sorry, if you want to be an action learner, you need to be certified at different degree levels. That means from a bachelor's degree standard to a master's to a doctorate and to become a doctor of letters. So in 2009, I achieved the highest honor from Professor Gordon Wills of Prestonage, and I completed my Doctor of Letters after I published 6 books and 100 articles, and then convert into what I call this project-based accelerated action learning. So it involves 4 types of thinking skills. So if you think about it, which I'm going to continue, how to apply this, so you will realize that my 60 minutes webinar, I wasted the 25 minutes, but this is important. As I said, history cannot be changed. What we can change is the paradigm shift. What needs to change in the way we think, the way we work, the way we behave, and then perform. So in all my lectures or training, first thing I will do, this is related to my case illustration at Petra University. And 28, I'm going to teach this topic called the Holistic Thinking for International Business Manager. So what is this topic that I'm going to discuss? Why it is essential and important for you to know. The next one is how to apply what I teach you. If you apply at the end of my 14 lectures, you've forgotten everything. So every time I finish one lecture, I normally call sharing. I don't like to call lecture, I like to talk about sharing. Then you have to find a real world case study. Not I give it to you, you go and find it and fit into what I have taught. That is because we are now living in the world of artificial intelligence, and one of our best friends is called the Google. So I want them to become the expert in using the Google to look out for the latest information, which I myself also have to learn together with them. So now action, how to apply what they learn every end of the class. A small exercise, don't take so long, but it helps them to understand that one of the very important AI is called Internet AI, which is the Google. And then now, who are the people who has the buy-in? Because when you do your presentation, 5 minutes each time, take turns, 5 in a team. So you beef up the communication skills. Who has the buy-in and who are still the lazy students? But you don't punish the lazy students. The team will punish them, because if out of 10 marks they get 4, the other team members will claim you did not do your work. You better distribute the work and do it. So this is what I say, is that you teach them teamwork indirectly, influence them about teamwork. Assurance, that means when will they reach the standard that is required of the university. So every, if it is 14 lectures, so every 4 lectures, they have tests. And last time it's difficult because it's in the classroom, but now it's easy because through the internet, so you can book the time and each team can present. Because one of the very important skill set, I think if you look at my end of today's presentation, which is directly from NTUC Learning Hub, is called communications. This is very important. Communications, 3 types: oral, written, and body language. And finally, the students must tell me at the end of the semester, where are the pain points? That means what went right and what went wrong and how much have they learned. This is in a 500 words report. Everyone submit, and this occupied about 15% of total marks. In Singapore, I cannot do it, but in Indonesia, because I'm a full professor, they respect and say, if this works, our students' measurement KPI is that they are able to enter the top 100 universities in the world. That's all. Then I get continue to do my job. Otherwise, they said, good night, sweet dream, Casey, we don't need you, no? Every time you come in, you travel first class or business class and stay in the suite room. So this is what I want to discuss, that at the end, what I created for digital transformation is that action learning is good by reverence, but reverence did not talk about agile project management. Now we are living in digital transformation, which is about agile project management. And then, as I said, if you don't change the way you think, how can you change the way you work? This is so fundamental. This is from Harvard Garner of Harvard. But nobody take hold of what he has said, because they say he's an academic, leave him alone. But in actual fact, holistic thinking is what I applied for the last 20 years in turning the company around called Cinemas Group, in making the students from nothing to something in Petra Christian University. And even I was conducting some American MBA programs in Singapore, case studies from Harvard, case studies, took them 2 hours. With my tools, using holistic thinking, they can get a better outcome of the solutions, but reduced to 45 minutes. This is only one case study. And this is live. Live means that you have to finish it in the class, because American standard is that the test is inside the class. It's not, I give you the case study, you come back in 2 weeks' time, and then I give you the questions, and then you solve it. No? So the outcome is, as I said, velocity means you must have a strategy. So you become faster, better, and smarter. Again, what needs to be debunked from most of the action learning gurus is that they say the action learning is for the individual, correct? But how about the team? Once you talk about team, you need project management. How about the organization? Organization, you need, as we said, to transform from teaching organization to action learning organization. So this is the message of my project-based accelerated action learning, means that we use project to drive learning by doing, and you need to be equipped with the right process and tools. So what are the right process and tools? So let me just quickly go through. The outcome of authentic action learning must be evidence-based. When students get lousy marks from me, I say very simple. You make assumptions. Assumptions equals to risk. Risk equals to you don't know the answer. If I put myself on the weighing machine, I weigh 100 kg. I can tell my wife and say, no, actually, it's 95. Never mind. We go to a more accurate digital weighing machine. Worth 101 kg. Because evidence-based, you cannot run away. It's evidence. It's the outcome. But a lot of students, they like to quote here, quote there, quote here, quote there. And this is how long ago? 20 years ago, 25 years ago. This data is absolutely obsolete. Learning by doing, you must do reflection every day. Every time when you come to a junction, the team record down what went right and what went wrong. It sounds very tedious, but all the students I train, to them is called a good habit. Now, as I mentioned, if the individual competence is not enhanced, how can you achieve team capacity, which is called synergy? If the team together, all the time you are doing small projects, how can you do big projects? So therefore, the capability of an organization is again measured by how complex the projects are. And learning is not only must be greater or equals to the rate of change. Look at the COVID pandemic. For those organizations that change very fast, and this is, if you have time, it's free, the YouTube from Professor Howard YU of IMD, and his book is called LEAP, L-E-A-P, and he just explained. Companies that use old competencies cannot survive. You have to change to new competencies, but it's difficult to define. Then using action learning, step by step, you implement. This is called from small implementation to big change. You scale up, and finally, you have to explore where are the markets, where are the products that can transform non-consumers to consumers, and finally you exploit. That means you go deep into market penetration. 55 minutes, same as what I'm doing. You learn a lot from his video. Free, huh? So this is how competitive the world is, because to attract people to attend his course, which is not cheap, so he has to give the content of the course. So now bridging the theory and practice gap. So you can see that one of the top practitioner universities is IMD. Every professor there, either I attended the IMD program again in Switzerland, which is very good. They are all from the industry. They are not from academic. So they stay too long in the academic world, they go back to industry. Then they come back again. And this is how IMD actually produced the World Competitiveness Report and earn them big money, because the professors has to go out. So Harvard U again use evidence-based to prove that those companies that actually utilize and optimize the digital transformation, they are ahead. And I was very sorry to see that our DBS Bank is not the top, it's number 4. And he actually show you the results. Why? Well, okay, now say, and project management, my friend from Harvard just told me last night, Casey, don't call project management. In Harvard or Wharton, we call it enhancing strategy execution. I said, yeah, because you charge 100,000 for your MBA program, you know. So I said, never mind. I also have a course which I designed with him called enhancing strategy execution, but it's actually action, project-based action learning. Okay, learning focus must be, as I said, about paradigm shift. So how many of us understand what has shifted? So this is where I now applied to my teaching, which is 28th of this month, April. And this is only the juice of what myself as a lecturer prepare as my lesson plan to the dean. The dean is from PhD from Birmingham. So, and of course, he's very qualified. And he's a present scholar in Indonesia, not Singapore. And Indonesia is learning very fast because they want to learn from Singapore so that they can, hopefully by 2030, be on par, on par with Singapore. I'm not joking, they are very ambitious brand. So this is what I will share with you. All my subjects I teach, I'm teaching 4 subjects in Petra: International Business Management, International Marketing Management, Strategic Management in the Global world, and the last one is Country Competitiveness and MNEs, Multinational Enterprise. And I still see many of the professors in Singapore still use multinational companies. Multinational companies is history, is MNEs. MNCs is used when there is this GATT, G-A-T-T. Now World Trade Organization is all MNEs. This can be found in Google, which define properly for all of us. And I'm very sorry to say some of our local professors still using MNCs, you know. But in Indonesia, they use MNEs because they know everything. Check Google whenever you're in doubt. So that means, in other words, when I start the class, I will explain the 5 Ws and 2 H. Then I'll say, okay, now I give you a simple project. You apply using project management tools, which is initiate the project, plan the project. Before you execute, you must know your KPIs, which is what to monitor and control. And after you execute, you must meet the execution, the quality control, which is the acceptance criteria. Then you can close the project. But now, suddenly, Project Management Institute and all the world-class organizations in Fortune 500 says that we go for Agile. So Agile is simple because I was teaching Agile using Kanban and Lean. I worked 10 years with the Japanese company. This is inside the DNA of the Japanese. So therefore now the American is using the Japanese techniques to prove to the world that it actually works now. The machines that changed the world, written by MIT in the 1970s, already have this mentioned inside. But again, as I said, it takes a long time for people to implement. When people will implement, when they hit a crisis, when do you see a doctor? When you're in pain. So I always say that action learning is the best way to solve crisis, which I did. So holistic thinking, which is invented by me and not invented for the sake of inventing. So I wrote academic articles. I was challenged at Harvard seminars. I was challenged in London Business School. I was challenged all over the place over the last 10 years. So I say, okay, so now I formulate this into a subject matter, which is called holistic thinking. So people 4 means what? As a person, we need 4 abilities. The ability to integrate, this is from holistic thinking. The ability to implement, this is systems thinking. The ability to innovate, this is part of your critical thinking. And now we have to look at it from lateral thinking, which is the Everett de Bono 6 thinking hats, how to improve continuously. But without the consensus of the people, you want to change, but the people refuse to support you, nothing can be changed. Now, we have John Cotter, we also have Gusno and Pusno, I think, leadership challenges. They came up with 8 steps to transition change management. To me, it's very good, but I found very difficult to remember. So I invented the 6 A's when I was in McKinsey. This is my own intellectual property, and that's how I just applied earlier on. And I use this as a process to help people understand why we need to change. And now finally, this is my intellectual property, which is called the 9-box solution. When I was studying in London Business School, my external examiner for my PhD from Strathclyde was Sumatra Ghosa, and has written 3 papers, 1 paper, each of the 3 boxes. That means purpose, people, process, 1 article in Harvard Business Review, scope, support, schedule, another Harvard Business Review article, strategy, structure, and system. When I put this all together and I presented to him, he said, Casey, use this as your intellectual property because you own it. I didn't combine it together. No? So just to repeat myself, in today's digital transformation, this is my first slide at Petra, if I'm start my class on 28, is to make them understand that IBM International Business Management is the first module of specialization. That means they are in the 3rd year of the 4-year honors degree. So I need them to understand what is holistic, system, critical, and lateral thinking. Now, at the end of the day, this is not I tell them, they must tell me at the end of day 1, what do they must know. So if they don't know, I ask them, well, you pick this one up as we go along, but this is to satisfy the dean, that I must teach them that international business strategy, which is called the velocity, speed plus direction, is multicultural management. This must be ingrained inside all the students. The students should know there are 14 forces of globalization. They should also know that how to combat the VUCA, which stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment. You need 4 strategies. If you don't know, I always joke, don't tell people I'm your professor because I feel ashamed. And you will definitely fail the exam because this one, you cannot apply it to your case study. And the case study is real time. Need to know, which means that the 4 types of abilities I just mentioned, integrate, implement, innovate, and improve. 4 types of human capital. They tell me, are you sure there's such a thing? Let's go through it after these few slides. And then 4 types of power. So an international business manager, if don't have these 4 types of power, it's not going to be very successful. It's not going to be very successful. So now, this, they have to complete the form, but I complete this because it's part of the lesson plan. So if you first time attend this, let's say as an adult student, you realize that, oh, I think I want to attend this class, no? Because what's the scope of action learning as an international business manager? Because I must be able to understand what is going on in the VUCA international business environment. What's the purpose of me attending this course? Because I realized that international business strategy, including the SME bosses, is multicultural management. And I don't know anything about multicultural management. And it's not just the people. If I want to change the people way of behavior, I change the process. I cannot change the people. You change the people, you fire all of them. Impossible. So therefore, to influence people, you use processes. And the whole world is connected by our technology, which is the Internet of Things. So Pranet, how to change? So I have to use these 6 A's. So first thing is you must make sure that people embrace awareness. That means you must know what is going on. I always told the students, you have to watch CNA news, which is our Singapore news, very important. If newspaper, try to get hold of the Business Times from Singapore. If not, the Fortune and the Economist. That's all minimum you have to do. Ensure alignment. So every end of the class, every topic, they have to fill up one form as a team. So you actually make them learn together with you. And some of the students are honestly smarter than me. Then you say, Casey, is this possible? I said, if the new generation is not smarter than me, that means our children, then we are entering degeneration. My son teach me mathematics because it's not the same as what we learn in school. We learn algebraical equation. He doesn't. He used reasoning and he get the same answer. So this is how our education system has changed. Not that we teach the younger generation. The younger generation not teaching me on certain things. The logic of things is important. Okay, engage action. So how many people, just like Grace Pang, I must thank her to organize today. I always say is the 30% rule. If you have 100 people says they're coming times 0.3, 30% will turn up. If this is Michael Porter giving a talk, it will be times 3, not times 0.3. 300% overwhelmed because it's Michael Porter. It's called leadership brand, not brand leadership. Brand leadership is Harvard, but not every professor people want to listen. But you say, this is Vibina from, I must change my name to Michael Chan, then more people will attend. Encourage adoption means that you must know who are the stakeholders, who support you and who doesn't, who are the weaker students. All this is reflected when they do their presentation. Immediately you know, this student never do any work and you have to talk to them one-to-one, or their team will talk to them because they get lousy marks. Enable assurance. When can they reach the minimum standard that is expected of a lecturer? So now the lecturer, not only that, but business value. If you go out with this subject, how can you convince the potential employer that you are the right candidate that they should offer the job? And of course, you envisage risk. So if you have such a program, you will also have casualty, but try to achieve zero casualty. This is what we say, safety standard. And of course, people can come from internal or external. That's the reason why some of these top universities, they use external professors, because internal is for the day-to-day 101 subject. But for other subjects, they get in from outside, which is directly from the industry practitioners. So there are 8 shifts that we are experiencing. The student must know, and I think all of us must also understand what went right and what went wrong in the new economy after the COVID pandemic. Is political power shift. Where? China. Where? Russia. Where? Indonesia. Because the economy by 2030, if you actually look at the World Competitiveness Report, the WEF, is point towards 3 countries in this part of the world. It's definitely China. It's definitely Indonesia. And the other, definitely, I hope your Singapore
but the name never come out, no? It will be Malaysia, because two are Muslim country. They combine forces. So this is common sense, you know. Okay, the wealth will start to shift. Last time, $500 million is big issue in China in the 1990s. Now $500 million, the Chinaman will tell you, 小意思没问题, you know, it's not a problem, because this is national money. This is not individual money. Consumer change. You go to all the top brand. Singapore, we don't have a long queue. You go to Hong Kong, it's a long queue. All are from China. They can buy very expensive stuff. Culture and knowledge, talent and job also change. So the other one, where's the pain point? Because of the 14 forces of globalization and the impact of the digital transformation. And what are the benefits? So this is where I have to prove to the dean that at the end of every course that the student attend my class, they improve on their effectiveness in planning, their effectiveness in monitoring and controlling whatever they do, or that means getting good results from other subjects too, and also effectiveness in decision making and come to selecting change. And of course, the last part is how to get everybody's support is using Albert de Bono's 6 thinking hats. So now, this is really almost conclusion that what I'm sharing with you, project-based accelerated action learning, is to combat the rate of change in the VUCA international business environment, which is also applicable to what we are discussing now. So adoption, we have to see the stakeholders, the answer to who. This is where communication plays an important part. That's why I said the white hat, the person who is information driven, says must be evidence-based. The red hat will say that this guy got no passion. When he talks, he lean onto something. I mean, myself, if a lecturer sit down and talk and drink coffee in front of me, that's what they did in the UK before. I don't have respect for this lecturer because he's not serious. And some more, he says, turn to page 55 of your textbook. In that case, I tell him, Professor ABC, can I assign myself because I can read this in the library? Huh? If you are a postgraduate student, you don't want a lecturer to behave like that. A black hat is the one who kiasu, say, everything must be put on recording, no? Otherwise, when I cannot remember something, I will get this playback. And I allow people to tape even when I'm doing my lecturing at any university, because it is very true. If you are serious about what you're teaching, it should be on videotape. And also I like to improve myself. So therefore I ask for the videotape and watch myself, my body language, and how can I improve. Of course, Yellow Head says that this is a opportunity for me to do networking, to connect to other businesses. That means these are adult students. And then we have to produce the wow effect, which is the green hat. And of course, the blue hat is that what is the big picture for everybody. After attending the course, so I go a bit faster. So this is a systems diagram to put everything, what I just mentioned, that at the end of my class, it must be winning for all, because where are the pain points I have to be highlighted. And system thinking looks at the input, then the output will be confirmed. That means first I look at the output, what I want to achieve, then garbage in, garbage out means I have to consider the input, I have to explain the what and why are you attending my class. And then before I go into process and execute my teaching, I must ascertain how much must they learn at the end of each session. So therefore now I will talk about how the process, who, the stakeholders, and when this can be applied. So this is the same 6 A's that I applied into teaching this module. And now these are the tools. I only explain the awareness and the alignment. So this is just to demonstrate that Action learning, to many people, ask 5W2H. This is called fundamentals. But if you want to move into detail, these 6 tools keep changing, depends on the subject. And who is going to design the tools is designed together with the students. I will not give this answer. This is only for the topic I'm teaching, International Business Manager. But for another topic, it will be different. But the first two, always the same. The awareness and alignment. But the action, the adoption, the assurance, anticipation are all quite different. So this is what I've invented, the 9-box solution. That means, in other words, if you look at horizontally, it must tell a picture. If you look at it vertically, it must give you another confirmation that this is correct. And then diagonally, that means the logic of things. So it may take a bit of time for me to explain. So I'm sure these slides will be shared. Now, as a conclusion, when I finish the class, I will ask the students, so what have you learned? They must be able to tell me, in a volatile environment, you need to have the ability to integrate. Because why? With the ability to integrate, it will help us to enhance effectiveness in planning to achieve clarity. In the uncertain environment, you need systems thinking to implement, because why? This gives us effective monitoring and control for execution. In a complex environment, you need to innovate. Why? Because this is where you can make effective decision making for change. If you change strongly, it will cost the company a lot of money, and then natural is the ability to improve continuously. So you need to garner the support of the other people also. As a conclusion, this is where I did one of my presentation on emotional intelligence, why action learning help us to achieve and enhance our emotional intelligence. Because when you talk about self-awareness, we have to do self-reflection every day. What went right, what went wrong? So every day before I sleep, like yesterday, I upset somebody. I asked, why must I upset this person? Oh, I'm in a bad mood. But why I become emotionally unintelligent? Because of the injection for the COVID pandemic. This is a very good excuse, right? So now self-managed action. So what do I do? First thing in the morning, I send an email. I'm very sorry what I did yesterday, because this is inappropriate. That I make all these what you call assumptions that you are lazy, you don't get the work done, etc., etc. Then I must observe myself, that is it true due to the COVID injection? And my friend explained to me, hey, Casey, you must drink a lot of water. That's what David told me. I didn't drink a lot of water. I didn't drink the coconut juice. So I think today I'll try. Drink more water, drink coconut juice, because for him, he behaved very cool. For me, I become temperamental after the injection. So what have I learned? I learned that by talking to people, people feeding me back, if I take it seriously and then I try out, means action, maybe I will not become emotionally unintelligent, when I talk to somebody else. Okay. So I think we come to the end. This is fresh from the NTUC Learning Hub. The effective communication is very important. If you look at the bottom, apart from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 9 and 10, all these are covered in my holistic thinking. And also, the last one is for digital transformation. Of course, this is done by our NTUC Learning Hub, project management. So with that, I think I would like to complete this presentation, that intellectual capital is good. I got MBA, I got PhD. But are you the expert for hire? So a lot of people say, I still don't have a job. I got 2 master's degree. Answer simple. People cannot see the expertise in you. What are you good at? So action learning helps you to identify. Because why? During action learning, your friend will tell you, Casey, you are good in project management. I said, no, I feel very bored already teaching project management. I said, but this is what you are alive when you teach project management. I said, how about leadership? Leadership, you must adapt a little bit because for masters and doctorate, you teach leadership, they can understand. You teach the bachelor's program, they all get very confused because I taught too many things at the same time. So I said, you change and bring it down to the bachelor's level, we will actually ask you to teach. Okay, adaptive power. I need to be able to humble myself and bring it down. Communications power, of course, I must target the audience, which is the one without experience, and resilient power. Although I once to retire, but my good friend David told me, what for you retire so early? 66 is young. People 60 years old retire already, like 66 still struggling. Okay, never mind. The next round I do with Grace Chan will be actually using design thinking for training of managers, but using the project-based accelerated action learning. Okay, so
Thank you very much, Dr. Chan. And if you guys have anything to ask Dr. Chan, you can send him the email directly. Send email to him the questions directly. Thank you. So if you want to rewatch this webinar, some of you came in halfway. Let me mention again, the webinar will be available on CTLD website tomorrow. So click on the IETL tab, and it is under takeaway T&L strategy. So I'll also post the presentation deck over there.
okay.
Thank you.
Take care and stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.
Right.